Okay, let's do this. Hi everyone, and welcome to my kitchen. You cannot imagine how many times I've tried and thought about filming this, thinking of the best possible way to speak about this and the best setting to do so. As a result, I found myself a couple of months later still having not filmed this video. And so I figured if I wait for the best moment and the best setting to do it, it's just not going to happen. And I tried to take my own advice and just film the video. And that's why we're in my kitchen. So we're here to talk about the title of this video, which is that I've quit my job as a junior doctor in the NHS. It feels very weird saying this and maybe a bit dramatic as well. So I thought I'd make a short video to segue into the next couple of videos, and also just to talk a bit about a particular topic, which is leaving the clear, well-trodden path, whatever path that may be. And I do have a couple of reflections on that. Being a junior doctor in the NHS is a massive part of my identity, or has been a massive part of my identity. It's the way that I usually start off my videos, and it's how I've seen myself and how I've planned to see myself all during med school. So I'm not going to lie by saying that this is easy or that this isn't strange for me in many ways. It's an identity that I'm very proud of and that I cherish, and it's one that I'm very privileged to have. Now, me quitting the NHS has less to do about the NHS and more to do about me. Yes, of course, there are loads of issues that we can make hundreds of videos about and that other people have already done in some shape or form, you know, whether that be about lack of resources, the pay, the overtime, the discharge letters. But that's not the reason that I quit my job, and it would be unfair to put it on the NHS. Whatever anyone may think about it, at the end of the day, I loved my time there, and overall it was an incredible experience. To be honest with you, I had been thinking about quitting my job for a while, for a couple of months. Let's just say that COVID just accelerated the whole process. I'd thought about it during my ED placement, so this was full on COVID wave. We were on the busiest days, we had to actually go out to ambulances in the parking lot because there were no spaces in the cubicles anymore. If you're interested in the actual on-calls and what the day job was actually like, or the night job if you're on a night shift, I have lots of videos on this channel taking you through a shift with me, so feel free to watch those. But it was a pretty intense period, and obviously with COVID, traveling was nearly impossible. And that put me in an even more difficult situation because I was working far from my family, and that was the tipping point for me. So during my respiratory placement, that's when I seriously considered it, and I got the ball rolling to begin this process of leaving my job and getting the necessary people involved. Honestly, it all got finalized about 1 month before I was due to start my next job. So it was very last minute, considering that I had been playing with the idea for a while in my head. But it did all get finalized. Now, this doesn't mean that I've quit medicine entirely. Medicine is still a massive part of my identity, and yes, it can be grueling, yes, it can be extremely trying, and yes, I have reconsidered whether I wanted to pursue this as a career for the rest of my life or not. I think it's a pretty healthy thing to do, to reflect on that and to remind yourself of the real reasons and not just do it because you've started it. But it's an absolute privilege, and you have some days at work where you've got an exchange with a certain patient or an acutely sick patient that you're able to stabilize, and it's those moments that make me so grateful and that make me realize how privileged I am to have this opportunity and be in this position. Medicine as a career has so many advantages, but off the top of my head, the three things that attract me the most to this profession are the relationship that you develop with your patients, you know, the element of vulnerability and the element of trust and the communication that you have to build up with them. For me, that is really special. And then also the fact that you develop a relationship with your colleagues. I love working in a team, not just because it's a nice dynamic and it makes the workday more fun, generally speaking, but also because you learn so much from your colleagues, you know, whether they're your seniors or at the same training level as you are, or even as a medical student, for example. Everybody has a different way of doing things, and they've learnt little tidbits from other people around them, and you pick up so much just from being around colleagues and seeing how they work. So I find that incredibly enriching. And then also in relation to to my last point about your continual growth. There's so much opportunity for growth in medicine, whether that be through your training, whether you're teaching others. You always have an opportunity to push yourself, learn something more, extract yourself slightly from your comfort zone just to make it a little bit bigger. Whether that be in terms of your communication skills or your practical or clinical skills, there is always an opportunity to learn. And for my personality and my approach to life, that is something that I really look for and appreciate in my day-to-day work. But honestly, in this video, aside from just telling you guys that I have quit my job, I wanted to talk about what I've been thinking about a lot, which is leaving this clear, well-trodden path and how to handle that. So I've thought about this a lot. I've got some reflections. I'd love to hear yours as well in the comments down below, because I'm sure we've all experienced this in some way or form. Even in the simplest things in life, whether you're trying to decide which meal you're going to order or which route you're going to take on GPS, we always look for the safe, predictable option. Some people don't. Some people like to discover and explore. These are generalizations, but I'm speaking for myself and also those that I've noticed around me. We always want to pick the best option. The best option, which means that we try to evaluate and overanalyze all the elements that we have to try and think of the way that we can lose the least and win the most in whatever situation. I don't know if you've ever found yourself looking for hours online before you buy your new phone, just to make sure that you've picked the best specifications, the best combination. And the more information that we have access to in this day and age, the more we try and fry our brains with all this information to make the best calculations. Whether they're efficient or not, I guess we can all decide for ourselves and conclude from our own lives. But there are two big problems that I see with this. Number one, and this is from a religious perspective, to me, it's clear that it's impossible for me to take all the elements into account. I can only take the elements that I see, that I perceive at a particular time, and that will probably and most likely change with time as well. If I had ignored a particular element, so let's just say, for example, that I was going to get a massive promotion the day that I quit my job, for example, maybe that would have made me reevaluate the time at which I would quit my job. So there's elements that we don't know about that could change our whole decision-making process. And when I talk about religious perspective, the only one who can know all the elements at play and actually make the best decision for me is God. That is why as Muslims, we remind ourselves to place our trust in God. Don't just put all the burden and the responsibility on yourself. You do your best, you evaluate as best you can. That's the best that you can do. But don't get to the point where it gets unhealthy, where you're putting yourself under so much pressure to make the best decision, knowing that you will never have all the elements into account. And so the approach that I try to have is to do my best and then put my trust in God, because I know that only He will have the best plan for me. And for me, that element of trust is so key to my sense of well-being, because sometimes a short-term loss, an apparent loss, we may think, whether that be that we're fired from our jobs or that we've lost out on a massive deal, whatever it may be, we only see the negative in it. But in the long term, when you look back, it may actually seem like a massive win. And I've heard lots of stories of people, initially having a really difficult time. And in the long run, they're so grateful for that moment because it opened another door, another possibility for them that was so much better. So for me, that element of trust is so important, and it helps me to keep going even when times are rough and when I question my decisions and I'm not sure that I made the right ones at the right moments. And then the second problem that I see with this best outcome notion is the word best. What is best? What is best for you versus what is best for me? We all have different priorities. We all have different situations, whether that be a family context, work context. Some of us have kids. Some of us want to be professors at university. Some of us are having a really difficult time with their partner or their parents. Others have a million side hustles and projects that they're really invested in. And others just want to work part-time because they enjoy, going to travel the world or whatever else it may be. We are all so different. So how is it possible for there to be a best outcome and a non-best outcome? Who gets to decide that for all of us? A typical medical trajectory is a bit like beauty standards in our society. We are given a certain idea of what's considered acceptable, what's considered good, what we should try and adhere to. But is that what you actually want? Is that actually what's good for you in your particular context? And it's crazy how many people feel like this. From the conversations I've had with medical students and junior doctors, I feel like the times are really changing, and a lot of young people now, they don't necessarily want to work non-stop and, you know, spend their life just focusing on their careers. They want to get involved in education or research on the side. They want to work part-time because they've got another project going on. They want to start a family, and there's so many different aspects. It's really dangerous to sort of put your head down and just follow the rat race because everyone else is doing it. And sometimes it's easier to do that than to stop and make the uncomfortable effort to analyze the situation, think of what you actually want to do, and to look at the direction that you're heading towards and think, is that what I actually want? And is that actually what's good for me? And sometimes your direction has to change. You have to go the other way. And it may feel really strange because everyone is moving in one direction and you're stopping, you're taking a break, or you're going in the opposite direction, or you're slowing down, or maybe you're going faster. And I'm not here to tell anyone what they should be doing. I just want to have a conversation about something that I find really difficult, you know, and especially now that I'm not in a classic path post-medical school. It's uncomfortable, it feels strange. I've got days where it's really difficult and I question if I've made the right decisions. And again, I have to go back to my 2 points that I mentioned about, you know, what is the right decision for me? I'm doing the best that I can with my particular context. And as long as you reevaluate and make a decision based on, to the best of your capacity, based on your needs and your particular context, then you can't go wrong. You know, whether I decided to quit the NHS or continue in my job, there is no bad decision and good decisions. There are maybe better or worse decisions, but even that is subjective and it's arguable. So if there's anything that I would like for you to take from this video is, don't take the easy option and give the responsibility of that decision, of the path that you're going to take in your life, of the things that you're going to pursue. Don't give that responsibility to someone else, whether that be society, whether that be what your colleagues are doing. Just because they're doing it doesn't mean it's right for you. Lean into that discomfort and question where you're going, question why you're doing it, and just go back to the basics. And once you've done that, once you've taken your decision, trust in yourself, and if you're religious, trust in God, and remember that you did the best that you could, and the rest you leave in his hands. And I'm just going to leave you with a fact that I find very comforting, that my mother used to tell me, and still does, whenever I am struggling with a decision that I've made, if I'm sort of veering too much off course and I'm making a mistake. And the thing that she reminds me of is airplanes. Let me explain. When you're on a plane, you don't think about how the plane is getting to its destination. You just think point A to point B, it's a plane, it's going to go in a straight line. But actually 90% of the time that it's in the air, the plane is off course, it's off its trajectory. And that's due to a bunch of reasons like turbulence, weather conditions, etc., etc. But most planes actually arrive, well, depending on the company you use, but they actually arrive most of the time at the correct location at the right time. And the reason for this is very simple. With the help of air traffic control and the inertial plane guidance system, the pilot is constantly course correcting. So whenever the plane is going in one direction, it corrects to the other direction, and then again and again. And the pilot does that continuously on the flight until the plane reaches its destination. And I find that very comforting because it just reminds me that I don't need to be on track the whole time. You know, I don't need to be exactly on a straight line. That is not possible. Even advanced technology and, you know, planes don't do that. And if you accept that that's part of the process, that is not supposed to be linear, just like your life, you're going to have good moments, difficult moments, trying moments, moments where you feel lost, moments where you're completely clear about what you're doing. It's not going to be linear. Linear would be boring. Linear is not realistic. So I think if we all remind ourselves to be a bit more like planes on our trajectory and just make sure we course correct, we stop, we reanalyze, we redirect to the best of our abilities with our best interest in mind, then I think we're going to be okay. That's the end of the video. I'd really love to know how you guys deal with this difficult concept and what your thoughts are on this. I hope this video was of benefit to you, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.